You know those books people keep recommending quietly, like they don't want others to know they read them? This book is one of them. It has been called manipulative, dangerous, even evil. But powerful people keep recommending it. So I finally read The 48 Laws of Power, and honestly, some parts really disturbed me. While reading, I kept switching between, wow, this is brilliant, and yeah, this is actually terrifying. This book has been praised by CEOs, artists, entrepreneurs, politicians, and celebrities. At the same time, it has been criticized for encouraging manipulation and emotional coldness. So the question is this book dangerous, or is it simply exposing truth about how the world already works? After reading it, I think the answer is both. The first thing that surprised me was how unapologetic this book was. You know, most self-improvement books try to motivate you gently, but this book doesn't care at all about your feelings. Robert Greene studies historical figures, kings, strategists, war leaders, politicians, queens, and manipulators, then extract patterns of how they gained and kept power. And some of the lessons feel uncomfortable because they sound too real. Not idealistic, not inspirational, just brutally honest. While reading, I realized that this book isn't trying to make you a good person. It is trying to make you aware of the people, aware of hidden intentions, aware of social games most people pretend do not exist. And that's exactly why this book became so controversial. The laws that hit me hardest were Law 1, never outshine your master. This law says, never make powerful people feel insecure around you. And this law applies everywhere. At school, at work, even in friendship. Sometimes being too smart, too talented, too confident around insecure people can create enemies without you realizing it. This sounds harsh, but it's true. The scary part is that success isn't always about competence. Sometimes it is about making people feel comfortable. And that realization alone changed how I see social dynamics. Lawfully conceal your intentions. This is where this book started feeling dangerous. Green argued that people become vulnerable when they reveal everything to Eri, their plans, their emotions, their weaknesses. And if we are being honest, oversharing can absolutely be used against you. But this law raises a difficult question. At what point does being strategic become manipulation? Because sometimes reading this book feels like learning social psychology from a villain, and yet you can't deny that people already operate this way in real life. Law 6, caught attention at all costs. This law feels extremely relevant today, especially in social media culture. Attention is now power. And whether you like it or not, the internet rewards visibility more than a quiet talent. The loudest people often win, not the wisest, not the kindest, the most noticeable. And suddenly, I realized why controversial creators grow so fast. Because attention itself is now currency. Even negative attention. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. This law was honestly one of the most extreme. Green argues, leaving conflicts half finished can create bigger problems later. Historically, many leaders lost power because they showed mercy too early. Now, personally, this is one of the laws I disagree with most. Because taken literally, it can create paranoia, revenge culture, and emotional toxicity. But I think the deeper lesson is about boundaries. If someone constantly destroys your peace, manipulates you, sabotages your life, you cannot keep giving endless access. Not every conflict deserves another chance. Law 30, discover each man's thumbs rule. This law is basically about understanding people deeply enough to influence them, their insecurities, their fears, their desires. And honestly, this law explains advertising, politics, dating, leadership, and social media better than some business books do. Because most influence is emotionally, not logically. That realization was probably one of the biggest takeaways from this book. So, what's the biggest problem with this book? Here's the issue. A lot of people read this book the wrong way. They read it to become manipulative, to control others, to feel superior, to win socially. But I don't think that's the smartest way to read it. Because if you only use this book to manipulate others, eventually people stop trusting you. and trust is still one of the most powerful things a person can have. I think the best way to read this book is defensively, not how can I manipulate everyone, but how do I recognize manipulation when it happens to me? That mindset changes the whole experience. And suddenly, this book becomes less about becoming evil and more about becoming aware. So, what makes this book so addictive?
The storytelling.
This book is full of historical stories, betrayals, wars, political games, seductions, ambitions, ego battles, and psychological strategies. It almost reads like a dark documentary about human nature. And even if you disagree with some rules, it's hard to stop reading because you keep recognizing these patterns in real life. At some point, I literally started noticing, wow, people actually do this. That's what makes this book memorable. Not because every law is morally right, but because many of them are psychologically true. So, should people read the 48 Laws of Power? Honestly, yes, but carefully. This is not the type of book you blindly follow like a life manual. Some laws are insightful, some are strategic, some are questionable, and some genuinely feel manipulative. But whether you love it or hate it, it forces you to think differently about people, influence, ambitions, and power. And maybe that's why it has remained popular for many years, because it exposes the side of human nature most books try to hide. And after reading it, I think this book doesn't change who you are. I think it reveals who you already are. If you have read the 48 Laws of Power, tell me, is this book a genius or dangerous? And what law shocked you most? Let me know in the comments. Till next time, see you in my next video. Bye!